It must affect all of our thinking and our research when it comes to these alien-human contacts. In Ted's experiences, for example, there were several occasions where such masquerading techniques were employed, and I could spend, as I said, the rest of the morning just dealing with these, and I'm going to be making very brief references, and hope you maybe want to read about the rest of it in the book. One instance involved the appearance of Ted's deceased grandfather on board a craft into which he and his grandmother had been taken when Ted was a young boy. I think I spoke about this a couple of years ago when I was first working on Ted's material, and I didn't identify that this was Ted's story I was referring to. The scenario involved persuading his grandmother to engage in a sexual activity with a non-human entity, and when she refused to do so, saying she had only ever made love with her husband and he was dead, the aliens produced the dead husband. In another instance, Ted watched a scenario that surely was not occurring in normal reality terms. I call it a virtual reality scenario, and this began shortly after he had heard a very quiet sound like helicopter blades. And in this ongoing event, after the helicopter blade noise, Ted watched as a human-looking entity dressed in military clothes popped through the ceiling into the room, holding a young child that was very, very similar to Ted's appearance at the same age. I believe now that the reported and confirmed details in all of these reports are strong evidence against accepting consciously recalled alien encounter reports at face value because of the illusion capabilities, because of the screens, and because of the virtual reality technology that we have witnessed being manifest by these entities. I believe that if we build our theories on such information, the consciously reported information only, we're building on sand, on illusions that the aliens create for us, and I think to confuse and mislead us. Now, this is not to say, however, that all alien encounters are virtual reality events, because there is also plenty of very strong evidence for the physical nature of many of these encounters. So to be perfectly objective, the definition of abduction would have to include any event or scenario that is generated externally for the targeted person, whether it be a physical encounter, a virtual reality scenario, or a telepathic contact. In 1991 and 92, when Ted and Barbara began a series of regressions, it popped up in these events, this scenario that Ted had recalled as a story, but a very different version of that basic story emerged. A version in which he went through what can only be called a horrific experience, in which his original body he perceived as being killed and taken away, and his essence, for lack of a better word, we could call it soul energy or whatever term one would like to use, was contained temporarily in a black box, placed on a counter, and transferred shortly thereafter into a cloned copy of young Ted's body.
If these aliens are taking all these humans and these children, and they're consuming them, people, if with it would be so many, it would be just thousands. The world would already be in a state of panic. So here we go with more deception, and it also shows just how brilliant some of these alien programs are. They created an ability to replicate a human in a fast, rapid method called a clone. And this is why another reason they're after the soul is because they're after the flesh of the original body. But if they create a clone and make it realistic, they have to put the same memory back in there. they did that to me, and I have witnessed them doing it to others through these odd-looking, strange-looking headphones that they put on you. And it's all they enter this information. It's almost painful sometimes. It's going into your brain so fast. But they created the human brain to be none other than a biological computer. So it's just like downloading something on the computer. It just works on the same principle. But then they take these souls. They've managed to get our souls and put them in little black boxes. I've seen them do it. They did it to me, and they have done that to them. I saw men, women, children, beings hung up on meat hooks and slaughtered, and their body parts where they were dismembered, and their body parts were packed in crates, and these crates were then moved into small UFOs and were taken out to alien colonies for them to feed upon. Some are reptilian, some are what they call the Greys, the Nordics, what have you. Different people tell us that they're all different species of aliens coming from different parts of the universe. I don't know originally where they came from, but I do know this. I have seen many of them on the same ship together. I have had Greys come and take me through the walls of my house and into a ship, and I get on there, and there's reptilians there, and then before they're done with me and I'm on a table having awful things done to me, a Nordic will come in and do something. And, you know, I just can't buy that they're all different species that are against each other. I just don't buy any of that at this point. I think they're all working together.
Become a member on Patreon to get full access to all exclusive content. A few of the perks is the full-length ad-free video version of the interviews, face-to-face interviews, bonus shows, and behind-the-scenes footage. You will also receive the video interview way in advance before the audio-only interview gets dropped on all platforms. Sign up and become a member today for only $3 a month. The link is in the description.
I am old as dirt and crazy as a loon. So here we go.
Well, you're from the South just like I am now, so.
Well, I thought I detected a little
North
in your talking.
North Louisiana, West Monroe, Louisiana.
Where?
West Monroe, Louisiana.
Good old stomping ground for me.
Yep, and I've been to Texarkana, worked at them paper mills, power plants, all over around there.
Yeah. Did you know I lived for 11 years in Freeport?
I know you know I did not.
Okay, I did. And that's where I met Carla Neutralize
all threats.
Wow.
I had a neighborhood abduction that not only was I taken, but my neighbors were taken. We were taken in a group, and that happened there in Freeport. And that's what brought Carla into my life.
I was wondering.
I used to drive over to West Monroe to a metaphysical bookstore and do psychic readings on Saturday. I did that for a number of years. I knew a lot of people in West Monroe. Lucky. I have good memories.
Do you remember where that bookstore is? We don't have any good bookstores anymore.
I don't think there's one there now, because that's in my knowledge.
But it's crazy that just to know how, somebody I've been following, huge supporter and admiration of Dr. Kelly Turner, and with your story and all that, and just know that you're only about 100 miles away from it. Where you from? What?
Hey, if you go on the podcast that I'm doing, Stuart Eglinton, you do Masquerade of Angels, it's on Spotify. It's on several others, but that's the only one I'm thinking of at the moment. But one of those podcasts is about a story called the Mary Henry story. And it's one of the most different things nobody has ever really, in my opinion, or that I'm aware of, come up with anything similar to that story. But it was verified by Mary Henry herself, Barbara Bartlett. But what I'm saying to you is that abduction took place on the second floor of the Holiday Inn in Monroe. They took me right off the balcony.
Did you know that, Fringe?
Ted, is this the one where you had someone call into a radio station who observed it as well, or is this something different?
No, this is a different story. Barbara Bartlett lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and she had a very good friend named Mary Henry. And I never met Mary Henry. I saw her at a distance one time when I was there at Barbara Bartlett for a few days when we were doing regression. And Mary Henry came by and stuck her head in the door and said, "Hey," and then she left. So I saw her physically, but I really knew nothing about this lady. But Barbara did mention her periodically to me because Barbara and I were friends for years before she died. But at any rate, when I was taken out of the hotel there, I was taken down into the earth. And down into the earth, I was put on a gurney with a little bit of a sheet over me. They had stripped me of my clothes. And on a gurney next to me was a woman crying out. And she turned and looked at me and she said, "Ted." I said, "What?" I didn't really recognize her. And she said, "It's me, Mary Henry." And Mary Henry and I apparently were taken, what I would say, into hell. We were taken deep into the earth. There were swine characters involved in what was done to us. But they were able to, with some of the machinery they had, they were able to dismember some of our limbs. And I actually, they took off my right foot right above my ankle and held it up and showed it to me. And I wasn't feeling anything, but they were doing this. And so after this abduction, and I wake up later and I'm back in the motel room, I'm thinking, well, maybe that could just been some ridiculous dream. But then I get back to Shreveport, and within a week I get a distress phone call from Barbara Bartlett in Tulsa, and she said, "Ted, Mary Henry's come over here. She's extremely upset because she said she was abducted with you, and y'all were taken into the bowels of the earth, and she said they removed some of your limbs. And she said Mary Henry says her feet are different now. They're not the same." And I had just come to notice that my right foot was now larger than my left foot. And I still have that today. It's noticeable. I can show it to you. But we saw down there swine-looking characters with hooves, feet, walking around. There were a lot of people on gurneys, different places, people crying out, begging for help. It was like a living hell. And it was very hot, very steamy. Like you may have been deep into some cave that was maybe, I'd just guess and say perhaps close to some volcanic lava or something that had the whole place somewhat heated, but not where you were burning. And there was an overseer, and Mary Henry also saw the same character she described in Barbara. There was an overseer kind of on a platform overlooking all this in barking waters, and he had reddish tinted skin, very leathery looking. It wasn't red like fire engine red. It was more like Native American Indian. He had ridges on his head, and he had ridges that kind of stood up that would make you think there were horns. I don't remember, at this point, I don't remember seeing him walking around with a pitchfork. I don't remember seeing a red tail. If I did, I've forgotten it. But that was the Mary Henry story. And it happened in Monroe, there at the Holiday Inn.
Wow. What, Dr. Color Turner, talks about the screen memories, or the virtual reality syndrome that these entities can portray and give us and stuff. In your mind, that experience that you just shared, was that as physical as you and I, as anything else that goes on in your life?
Well, when you come back with different feet, I would say it's physical.
What was your mind? What were you thinking whenever you came back, like emotionally and everything?
I was really very disturbed about it. I had taken a friend with me who just happened to be visiting, and I said I have to go to Monroe, West Monroe, and do readings. The books were scheduled about 5 that day, and I said go with me. So he was with me, and he's a witness to how upset afterwards I was. As a matter of fact, I had 2 more readings scheduled for the next day on Sunday, and I was so upset over this, I had to cancel those and go back to Shreveport.
Requesting
So
recon above.
that was ineffective. Yes.
What was the other lady's name?
Mary,
Did you ever talk to her? What was her story like?
but she talked to Barbara, and we had planned to come up there. We were going to get together and discuss this, but it never happened.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during that conversation. If it would have happened.
Well,
but it sounds similar. Go ahead, Ted. I'm sorry.
it's all right. Unfortunately, Barbara Garfield was died. But she had recordings. She made live recordings of Mary Henry talking about this, and also me on the phone. And she had a lot of regressions that we did, and now since she died, I have no idea where they are. It's all a world of information that I can't even remember.
I wonder if James Bartley could. I know he was really good friends with Barbara also.
Well, I wonder if any of her close friends like that, besides myself, got any from the theater, if her family released anything.
Do you know anything about that friend? I know you're a big Barbara Bartholin fan. I'm a fan of all these giants that led to building this research, for us. But do you know anything about who? Surely somebody got her research material, something like. Have you heard anything about that? Because I know you've done a lot of research when it comes to barbering that.
You know, I haven't. I'll reach out to James because it's a great question. I think we might be waiting for some of Carla's material to come out, but I haven't heard anything about Barbara's material. She and her husband were both died close together, yeah, Ted. And so I'm not aware of who all of that went to. Ted would probably know a lot more about that than I would.
Well, I contacted one of her children and inquired about the material and said, "Is there any possibility I can get all my tapes?" And I did this twice. They never responded, so I left it alone. I didn't want to step into their arena where they were uncomfortable. But
hopefully the material, the tapes and all that, it's still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But whenever you were explaining that your experience here in Monroe, it reminded me of one with my ex-girlfriend. But I don't think that I don't know. I've never been regressed or anything, so I don't know. But I don't think that I was having a paranormal type experience. But like I said, I've never been regressed, so possibly. But anyways, so I came to her one day and I said, I had this wild dream. Or she actually came to me. She came to me, had this wild dream. And she said we were running through the desert. Or she was with this guy. She was with this guy running through the desert. And she was being chased. But she knew that this person she was with was friendly and that they were escaping this person that was, I guess, trying to kill them, whatever. And they went to a house, an abandoned house out in the desert. And it's been so long since. That was years ago, 15, 20 years ago. But anyways, they went up, hid up underneath the car, and that's basically where it stopped. She told me that she could see the feet out there, you know, because she was underneath the vehicle. And that's basically when it stopped. And when she told me this, I'm sure there's a lot more, but I didn't write that stuff down back then. When she told me this, the hair on my back of my neck, arms, everything, it shook me to my core because it was the same exact dream that I had. The same exact dream that I had, but I was running through the desert with a female. I didn't know who it was. And we were being chased, and we went through a house. The same thing that she explained to me. I think it ended underneath the vehicle, hiding, and that's basically all that I remember. But every little detail, there was a lot more that I missed now, but we had the same dream, but we didn't know it was each other. Like, I didn't know if it was her, I didn't know who it was, but I could tell it was a female presence, vice versa. We had the same dream. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think that was an accident.
Deploy watchdog kilos to my grid.
You had it around the same time. How old?
Authorizing Hellstorm launch.
Right now, about then?
Yeah, then when you had the dream.
Now I'm 38. That was probably 20, so 18 years ago. Yeah.
Launch a UAV.
She was 19, 20. Yeah.
Neither one of you reported having a dream or waking up to a dream or drowning.
Not drowning, but I've woke up with a lot of night terrors. I haven't had this dream in a long time, what I'm about to tell you, but I used to wake up a lot with, like we were in a post-apocalyptic dream. I would have over at least once a month and once every couple months the same dream. I would wake up and the nights, the skies would be, during the dream, the skies would be filled with black triangles, and they're taking people aboard. Everything's catastrophic. Things are on fire. People screaming. It's almost like the end times. I would have that dream over and over again for years. About once every couple months, but I haven't had it in years. But that's the only thing I can think of.
I don't think that was just your mind
Los Angeles, hot.
kind of going crazy there. I think did something that made me help me speak through the stream like that. I think I would say definitely you can contact me. I think the running in the desert and getting to this empty house that you shared with your friend, I don't think that was an accident. I can't tell you what I think it really means. I'm not sure. But it seemed to me that both you and her, you were running from something. And the house represented security. And what were you both running from? Were you sleeping in the bed together, not trying to be personal, but were you sleeping together when you had these drinks?
No, she was. I just got back. You know, I was military police, Army Reserve, and I just got back from basic training, and she was still living with her parents. She was going to college, so she was still living with her parents, and I was still. I guess I was technically still living with my parents at 20 when I first came back, but I moved out. I think at the end of my 20 or 21, but I think I was still living with my parents then too, because I was attempting to go to school, but it never worked out.
Well, I don't have the answer for you on why you both have that same dream, but I don't, knowing what I know from my experience, I do not believe for a second it's coincidental. I think something was messing with you. How many times do you think you saw those triangle-shaped vehicles in the sky?
Oh man, and I would like to get your take on that too, Fringe, here in just a moment, because I don't think we've talked a couple times, and I don't think I ever brought that up. Man, I would say early 20s, all the way to 38, maybe all the way to I was at least probably 34, 35.
You're not having
Not that I can recall. Not consciously, not that I
Are
can.
they always identical with a new variation in the law? They were always the same.
It seemed, Ted, to always be the same. It was like this doom and gloom type scenario where everybody's being taken by these triangles and everything's on fire, like end times type ordeal.
Well, it reminds me of what I've seen in a vision years ago. This is back when I had the first vision. Was back in the 1970s. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and I had this vision where I saw dark clouds, lots of lights, and what appeared to be vehicles in these clouds everywhere in every direction. You could see, and on the ground it looked like bombs had gone off. The vegetation was kind of burned and dead looking, and I saw coming out of one cloud, one figure, a rogue figure. I wasn't close to it, but I saw it descend like in a beam of light down to the ground, and then from walking forward, everything behind it came lush and green and woody as it walked forward. And these clouds, they had spotted lights in them that would be like 3 lights of different colors, making like a triangle. I don't recall necessarily round ones. I think they were the lights that I saw indicated most of what I was seeing was triangular. So I think what you and I have shared is some apocalyptic thing that's coming in the future, or something just wants us to think that. My question back then was, why show me something like that that I can't do anything about. Any people won't believe me when I tell it. They will dismiss it as a dream or something kind of crazy. So I was never given any tools to go with that, really, to help people. Do you feel you were given anything that actually would help people benefit from what you saw there?
That's the only thing I know is that's the year when I came back when that 2006 when that's the year I first came across you, Dr. Carla Turner. I was going down the rabbit hole and I was researching these things and then I started having these dreams. So did I get close to something?
Well, you started having the dreams after you started researching Carla and I.
I can't say 100%, but around that same time, I would say 2006 when I was 20 years old.
Well, I would say, in my honest opinion, it's kind of like playing the Ouija board. Once you play that game, you've opened the door for this to come into your life. And so when you started researching Carla, that came in because that was a subject matter that they're greatly involved in.
Do you think they're intimidated by that research material?
I don't know if they are anymore or not, but back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yes, very much so. I think they were because they were not fully prepared themselves for the invasion they were starting on planet Earth.
Strange, I'd like to get your take on some of this stuff. Because
Yeah,
you put things in a very, very good perspective. I just love hearing your things on spaces, your spaces that you hold, and the past couple interviews. We've talked about. You put things in a very good perspective. So I'd like to hear your take.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm just happy to be a fly on the wall here with Ted always. So that is actually one dream I have never had. I've had all the other catastrophic, earth change dreams my entire life that a lot of different abductees and experiencers have. The only thing I can really say about it is it's very common. A lot of experiencers and abductees have these same visions, the same one with a fleet of ships arriving at the end of the world. I think my husband has seen something very similar to that. And the abduction research shows that sometimes abductees are actually being shown these images on a screen. And these images are being shown almost as propaganda material to say, look, this is what you guys are going to do to the earth. This is what's coming. This is what's happening. But don't worry, once we are in charge, everything's going to be great. So it's just a typical propaganda message. Like Ted is saying, is it actually going to happen? We don't know. Now, there does seem to be some science now behind some changes to our electromagnetic field, and we have the sun, blasting its rays toward us. So could something like this happen? Sure, it could. But what is the purpose of this message? Like Ted is saying, what can we do about it? The climate change that's coming directly from our sun, there's nothing we can do about that. And so is there anything we can do to stop it? I have often thought, are they trying to get us as creators, so to speak? We have a limited creative ability in this realm. Are they trying to get us to actually manifest this? There's just a lot of questions around it, but it's interesting that you've had these dreams because many people have had these same dreams. So you just have to wonder, is this something that's actually going to happen, or is it something they want us to think is going to happen? There are a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's just weird how it just stopped, and I guess in a way I'm kind of glad because at first I remember them being kind of these dreams would be kind of terrifying, but then it was almost like I knew that this is familiar. I'm having the same dream again. So it's almost like I was kind of conscious within the dream. So, but something, Ted, I was wanting to, and you can steer this conversation any way you want to, Ted. Seriously. You know, this just act like we're just sitting around a campfire or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm open to talk about whatever pops up that you guys feel to talk about. I just want to support what friend here has said. A lot of people, and I've run across other people besides you and friends that have seen some of these things themselves. And I ask that same question every time now. What did you get out of it that you feel is helpful, that will help mankind? And nobody really says, well, people don't believe me when I tell it, but it's really stuck in my head. So at this time, I'm supportive of what Fringe is saying. It may be just alien propaganda, where we don't know yet exactly where they're leading us, but I don't trust any of it. I don't trust any of it at all. I have learned not to trust anything they do because they affect all of us in so many different ways. And they do this while we're sleeping. They take us when we're awake. They mess with our lives completely. So I have no reason to put any truth into what you and I have experienced, what any of us have seen with these visions or these dreams. I keep waiting for somebody to have more that we can say, oh yeah, that is helpful. Yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do that. But nobody ever comes up with that. So anyway, I just want to share that.
I appreciate it. I just don't understand why, though, Ted. Like, why do people? Why? You know, if Dr. Carter Turner says that we're getting these, that they can get these visions, you know, almost like a virtual reality scenario within our minds. But why? You know, that's something that's so complexing to me. Is why do they even bother? Are we just pawns on the chessboard? You know, just
Absolutely, we are. We are.
what does your gut tell you? I know I'm asking you maybe to speculate or not. I don't know, but what does your gut tell you? Like, why are they messing with us? Why are they interfering with our deepest subconscious minds, physically and or mentally, and even in the physical sense, I guess?
Goodness, that's a big one.
Well, take your time. I just
well, I think that until I come up with something better, I think they're the biblical fallen angels. And as we are told in the Bible, we're told that Satan controls his planet, and so they do control it, and they control everything on it. Why God has allowed this to be this way, I do not know. I can't answer that. I can't speak for God, but I wholeheartedly believe in God. They are fallen angels, so they are against God, they are against Jesus, and their primary motive is to disrupt everything on planet Earth and control it in a negative way. And then, we have to look at the fact that they're creatures. I think there's more. I'm not convinced that all of them are creatures of material substance. Some can be ethereal, I suppose. I don't know enough to be sure about that. But these creatures, some are reptilian, some are what they call the Greys, the Nordics, what have you. Different people tell us that they're all different species of aliens coming from different parts of the universe. I don't know originally where they came from, but I do know this. I have seen many of them on the same ship together. I have had grays come and take me through the walls of my house and into a ship, and I get on there, and there's reptilians there, and then before they're done with me, and I'm on a table, be having awful things done to me, a Nordic will come in and do something, and you know, I just can't buy that they're all different species that are against each other. I just don't buy any of that at this point. I think they're all working together. I truly do. And I don't think that there are any good ones, except if we find out that God and the true angels are actually aliens too, which is possible in my realm of thinking. We may find they are the good ones. If there are any, they're the good ones. Flipping back to something we mentioned earlier, does anybody know approximately what year Betty and Barney Hill were abducted there in New England? Wasn't it in the early 50s?
Was it 57, 58?
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know the aliens' involvement in humanity to the degree it is today. I don't know that it was happening like that back then. There was the Roswell crash. Supposedly, after that, President Eisenhower had a meeting with them at some base and agreed for them to start abducting humans as long as there was no harm done to anybody.
Too far away.
And in exchange for technology that would help us. Now, I don't know how true that is, but my gut feeling tells me it was true. After that,
I must get closer.
people started having that video of Barney Hill start having
Too far
abductions
away.
and reporting. And then we move on into the 50s, more of it.
I need to target
Move
something
on into
first.
the 60s, more of it, and so on and on. And now it's very common. People worldwide are acknowledging I've been touched in some way by these creatures. And so I think that if Eisenhower did this and had that agreement, they falsified
I am out of range.
what they were actually going to do. He gave them permission, nobody was to be hurt, but yet they lied. They didn't honor their agreement because they are hurting people. They've hurt me. They've hurt friends. They've messed with our lives in a very negative way. Friends, comments.
So, and I was wanting to, and I've been contemplating that, and you can comment, Fringe. What you just said, Ted. I've asked many research. I've been podcasting since 2010, and I've asked that on and off, especially the past couple of years. That the question of kind of relate to what you just said. Why did it seem like it kind of happened within somewhat the early part of the 20th century? 1950s or 40s onward, and my thing is, Fringe, and I think we may have discussed this last time, but did some type, maybe occultists like Aleister Crowley, Parsons, other just armchair occultists, are they doing these rituals to conjure these things into existence, almost like a portal? They're using their human form as an energy beacon, almost like a portal to maybe manifest into the world. I don't know. That's just me speculating, because just like Ted said, it's something I've been kind of contemplating. Like, why did all this kind of happen? Like, mostly, I know we've had accounts throughout time of little cave drawings of things, but it seems like we've just been bombarded with this, especially since occultism and these ritualistic
I do not have a target.
ritual started kind of taking place in really the
I require a
early
target.
part of the 1900s to now, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that the Nazis, got involved in this and they were the first ones to get this technology, at least in modern day, because it has gone on for centuries, if not thousands of years. So starting with the Nazis, and there are tons of people who believe that Parsons and Crowley and all them, opened up portals, you have Lamb, you have all of that lore. I don't think we really know. I don't think we know why, the uptick is happening. Maybe people are just more aware. Maybe it's now easier to talk about. I did hear someone say the other day that, abductions are slowing down, they're not happening anymore. And it's just absolute nonsense that they're not happening anymore. People start saying that all the abducting greys have been evicted from the planet and the Galactic Federation is coming to save us. Absolute nonsense. All of this is just propaganda to get our eyes off the ball. If anyone knows me, they know I agree with Ted's assessment here. I think ultimately we are looking at a battle for the human soul, for the ultimate destiny of the human soul. There's still some mystery about it. We might not understand every single thing there is to understand, but that's the bottom line. And the thing with these creatures is they are so incredibly manipulative and deceptive. They string us along, really wherever we're at in our lives, they come at us with some kind of deception. And I've said before, people like me and Ted, and maybe even you, we don't know what's going on with you, Michael, abductees, experiencers, I think it's all of us. It's the entirety of the human race. We are all experiencers to one degree or another. It's really just a matter of awareness, because we are being acted upon at all times by these creatures in an unseen realm, and we're just completely unaware of it. So, I don't think abductions have stopped. I think they've gone up. I think if you look at even David Jacobs' work, there's some statistics to suggest that it actually goes up at the same percentage of the population going up. And so there's nothing stopping, there's nothing slowing down. It's happening to millions of people worldwide in all different types of cultures. And here we are today, at least able to talk about it through technology on the internet, which is just so incredible. I am incredibly honored to be here with Ted. Ted affected me and my story personally, and I'm just excited to help him, make sure he gets his story out there, because it's so important for people to understand. I would love to hear more, if you're okay with it, Michael and Ted, we were talking about Barbara. And Ted, we had a conversation not too long ago, maybe about a week ago, about how when Masquerade of Angels had come out, or was about to be published, Barbara and Carla and Ted were actually threatened. And not too long after that, Barbara and Carla were dead, and Ted actually went into hiding. And so this is why Ted's message is so incredibly important, because 20 years ago, at least, they did not want this story out there. And that's why it's so important to get this story out there, to get his opinions out there, to hear everything there is to hear. Because if it was important then, it's definitely important now. And I think the experiencer in the abductee community needs to hear from Ted, because we have so many experiencers who are falling for the deception of these entities. They believe everything is good, that we're ascending to 5D, that these entities are here, to upgrade our consciousness. And so this is a bit of a ramble to just say thank you so much, Ted, for being here. And please tell us as much of your story as you possibly can while we have you.
I would do that. As you're talking, a couple of things rushed through my head. I would like to say, one thing that if there's anything I want to get out there, I want people to be aware or stopping things. We're dealing with non-human entities. They are creatures in comparison to humans. We see them as creatures. What do you think reptiles eat?
Other creatures.
You think they're going to sit down at a dinner table and have baked potatoes and steamed broccoli with a little cheese on it or something? No, they're meat eaters. They're flesh eaters. and we are their garden. We are their food supply. I was taken to the underground base at Julesy and had one of the most horrible experiences of all that I've had is I witnessed people being brought in that were in a zombie state. They had been
I require a target.
done that to them. I saw men, women, children, beings hung up on meat hooks and slaughtered, and their body parts where they were dismembered and their body parts were packed in crates, and with these crates were then moved into small UFOs and were taken out to alien colonies
I am out of range.
for them to feed upon. I saw this. I witnessed it. But you don't hear other people talking about it. And I think probably this is one of the things that
Too far away.
that I had to go at because of the threats. This first realized this, I saw this, was working with
I am
Barbara,
out of range.
and this was back in the early 1990s.
Too far away.
Stephen Greer, I listened to a podcast he
I
did
must get
this morning. He said the aliens have been protecting us from annihilating ourselves for 80 years with atomic bombs, etc. They're looking out for us. I wanted to say, Stephen, wake up. They're just protecting their next
I am
meal.
out of range.
They don't, yeah, they may keep us from blowing ourselves up. They don't want to lose their garden. So we, there are different ways to look at this. But, I don't want to just create a horror story that terrifies people, but at the same time, I'm trying to be realistic. These creatures feed on human bodies. I have witnessed
I need to
and
target.
seen up close the praying mantis dismember and eat little children and babies, rip their cavity chest open to feed on the organs inside their little bodies. But yet, some researchers say
Too far away.
they're operating the nursery for these children that are hybrids. I don't buy any of that. Well, the mantis eats other insects.
Yeah.
So it's a flesh eater, and they eat the blood off these other insects that they kill. So taking the blood or the organs, because you got to realize these mantis are doing this. They're not the little tiny thing you see on a foot outside. They're
I
7
am out
feet
of
tall.
range.
And spindly. And so they're going to require more than eating a caterpillar or something like that on a leaf. So they're feeding on these children. And now this is where I wanted to go with these clones is in support of what I'm saying. If these aliens are taking all these humans and these children, and they're consuming them, people, if with it would be so many, it would be just thousands. The world would already be in a state of panic. So here we go for more deception, and it also shows just how brilliant some of these alien programs are. They created an ability to replicate a human in a fast, rapid method called a clone. And this is why, another reason they're after the soul, is because they're after the flesh of the original body. But if they create a clone and make it realistic, they have to put the same memory back in there. They did that to me, and I have witnessed them doing it to others through these odd-looking, strange-looking headphones that they put on. And it's all they enter this information. It's almost painful sometimes. It's going into your brain so fast. But they created the human brain to be none other than a biological computer. So it's just like downloading something on the computer. It just works on the same principle. But then they take these souls. They've managed to get our souls and put them in little black boxes. I've seen them do it. They did it to me. And they hold it there temporarily until the clone's ready. And when the clone's ready, they program the same memory back into it. And they take the same soul and they reinstall it in the clone's body. And then they have a little room where they put the clone in, where they file down the fingernails and they make sure everything looks the same, and so that nobody would notice. And then they put the clone back into the bed, and it wakes up the next day. And sometimes they're feeling kind of poorly, drained of energy, headachy, a little confusion, felt like they had some horrible nightmare, but can't quite remember what it was. But they have no idea what just happened to them the night before. And so if they don't work this program, then the whole world's going to catch on with millions of people disappearing all the time. So it's really a very sophisticated and brilliant program. It was fooled humanity for years. And we're still interested. Comment?
I'm just enjoying hearing you talk, Ted, because I want you to share as much as you can, man. But if Franz wants to comment, go ahead.
No, I just want to hear Ted. I'll back you up, Ted, on that. I mean, it's all throughout the abduction research. This sounds like science fiction. It's something that sounds ridiculous, this idea of clones, but it's all over the place. It's everywhere. I have been transferred out of my body so many times I can't even count. It's a thing. Take it or leave it. I just want to hear everything Ted has to say.
Well, we can do more interviews with that.
Okay.
I'm getting older, and I'm willing to talk about anything that I can to get it out there, because I don't know how much longer I will be around. I'm 82 now, so and I'm hoping I'm around to live to be 100. But I've been battling poor health now for several years here, and so we don't know where it's going. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with whatever happens. Now, something popped into my mind. It was in Masquerade of Angels, but since it popped into my head, let's talk about it. Back during the late 60s, I was living in a house in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, with a good friend, and his godmother had died, and he was allowed to live in her house until he got his PhD with the University of Alabama, which he did. But I lived there for a short period of time. But during this evening, I lived on the second floor of the house. He lived on the first floor. But what his godmother started appearing to me and giving me instructions of things she wanted me to do to help him stay there and be comfortable and get his degrees at university. And so I shared this with him, and we were all excited about her ghost coming and talking to me. And of course, the very idea of a UFO back then was absurd to me. I didn't know that if somebody said they'd seen one, I'm not sure if I would have believed them. But at any rate, when we jump forward to Barbara Bartley, I asked Barbara one day when I was there with her, put me under. I want to look at that event where the godmother came and talked to me. And I said, something about it has